Welcome back. We are building up to the finance minister's budget speech in about half an hour from now. What can we expect? We're joined by more guests. Joining me now is Abhishek Rastogi of Khaitan. I'm also joined by Mr. Srinivasan from Taxman. Both of you are tax experts. Very quickly tell us, from a tax perspective, what would you like to see the finance minister do? You subscribe to the view that this is a budget where he is financially constrained before he can announce any major steps?
See, I think as far as the indirect taxes are concerned, there will be a lot of rate tweaking only on the custom side, because that's what is expected and will happen. So there will be a lot of rate swings on the custom side, which is expected. Now, of course, he can't make a lot of changes to the CGST and the SGST provisions, because that's where the GST Council comes into play. But there are a lot of issues which have gone to various high courts by way of constitutional validity, and this pertains to the IGST applicability for sectors such as bank. Now, these issues, I think, may be resolved, because when these writs have gone to the court, there have been statements that the
You
government...
interestingly also told me you don't believe this is the last budget of this government. You believe the finance minister may change the budget cycle again, and that there will be a budget in November of 2018.
Yes, looks likely, because if you see the financial year versus the calendar year, it is quite expected, and I think I'm quite bullish on that, is that he may change the calendar year. And if that happens,
the committee has not said, the committee on that subject has not recommended switch to a calendar year.
But given
so there could be some broad announcements today, and if that happens, then which means that this is not the last budget.
So you believe there's a possibility not the last budget. From a personal tax point of view, what do you expect?
I expect that the big fish targeting will be there through the Benami Act amendments. Some clarification amendments to the Benami Act. The Benami Act will be amended so that more effective action can be done against the big fish. Simultaneously, the personal tax exemption limit should be increased to 5 lakhs. Because remember, in the last budget, the 2,50,000 to 5 lakh, the 2,50,000 to 5 lakh slab, 10% was reduced to 5%.
Right.
So that is a precursor. It is giving a clue.
Shorts. Okay. There's a problem with your mic. We'll get your mic back in a moment. We'll play shots also of the finance minister, who's at the moment in Parliament. But let's look at the big picture. What is the big picture? We are doing this now against the backdrop of what we've seen that has just happened in Rajasthan. That doesn't influence the budget document, but it clearly influences, in a sense, the feel-good mood. The government is going into today at 11 a.m. into Parliament with an opposition that finally may go up from 44 to 46. The Congress will finally have something to hold on to. Do you believe the mood changes as a result of what has happened?
Because the finance minister's speech is done.
That's done. Forget that.
And is not going to be affected by this. But I do believe that the Gujarat election would have had some say in the finance minister's speech. And the the decisions that the finance minister will take in the budget announcement. So I think those will reflect somewhat in this, and you can already see that if he's going to deliver the speech really in Hindi as is expected, he's actually targeting the hinterland. He's targeting the big vote banks in UP, in Bihar, in Madhya Pradesh, and things like that.
Let me see if Sanjay Jha of the Congress is still with us. Mr. Jha, the finance minister, to deliver his speech in Hindi on a day when the Congress seems to have captured some lost ground, no evidence of a revival, but certainly some green shoots to hold on to. Am I to understand that the Congress believes that the finance minister will deliver a speech with the idea, with one eye clearly on general elections 2018, possibly last part of the year? Or do you believe general elections will be held on time, April, May next year?
Rajdeep, India's economic problems are far deeply embedded. I mean, there are structural fault lines. And, one budget, cannot give you a silver bullet prescription to suddenly create jobs and, boost the rural economy. I mean, the truth of the matter is that this government has wasted the last 4 years in basically headline hunting and event management, and the fundamental reforms that could have happened have not been done. And as far as the early trends in Rajasthan Lok Sabha elections are manifesting, I mean, I will wait for a further consolidation of our victory margins before I make a comment on it. But I think the trend of the fact that the people of India have seen through a whole lot of, I think, what I call as kite flying done by Mr. Modi's government is now beginning to reflect. I mean, the Gujarat election was symptomatic of the fact that there is a ground reality that is very different from the way it's painted by Mr. Modi in the pink papers. And I think if the Rajasthan election results hold in the Lok Sabha, the writing is on the wall. I'm going to make one prediction on your channel. If we win Rajasthan's both Lok Sabha seats, Mr. Modi is not going to hold any elections in this year. Please don't buy into that gossip which is spread in Delhi's, fancy Lutyens, drawing rooms. Mr. Modi will be in a panic state. And I think the BJP recognizes that this trend is not just Gujarat and Rajasthan, it will be in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. So I think this is a larger repercussions are going to happen across the country, but predominantly in the areas where BJP has been predominant for a long time.
Meera Sanyal, do you believe that therefore the pressure in a way, the budget papers are already in place of course, but the pressure on the government, not just in the budget but in the months ahead, to be seen to be going beyond just the headlines, to actually show something dramatic will increase? If you remember, Manmohan Singh in his first UPA had to come up with a major farm loan waiver, something that is seen as attractive enough to be seen as electorally beneficial. The finance minister's one eye will be on elections today.
Well, I think the finance minister would do extremely well if he were to stop thinking either like a lawyer or like a politician and start thinking like a business person or like a farmer. I mean, what does a business person want? A lot of these things are outside of the budget. They're related to the first mantra that the BJP came up with, which was less government and more governance. Unfortunately, we have seen more government and far less governance. What does a business person want, Rajdeep? You want the rule of law and order. That's not operable in our country at the moment today. People are getting lynched for all kinds of reasons. Women are getting raped. You can't say what you like. You can't, you are constrained and the police doesn't act. You want a stable tax and regulatory environment. We haven't had that. You want simplicity and ease of doing business. Instead, you get hit by demonetization, which disrupts your business. You get hit by a very poorly implemented GST regime, which once again causes so much confusion. What business people want is to get on with their work and make money. And if there is more investment, you will have more jobs. Look at what has happened with the absolute numbers of new investment proposals. They have halved. In 2014, we were talking of 16 trillion rupees. In 2017-18, it's down to 8 trillion rupees. Gross capital form of GDP down 8 percentage points from 34% to 26%. What is happening here? The finance minister and the prime minister need to take a really hard look at what they have done with the economy of this country. Then think like a farmer. I mean, you have a Pratham survey which says that less than 1.2% of young people in the agricultural sector want to be farmers. Why is that? Because the income of an agricultural worker is less than one-third that of a non-agricultural worker. On average, 3,800 rupees a month. How can people live on this? You're seeing a complete disruption of market forces. It's not that our farmers are stupid people. They are not allowed to sell at market rates when they need to. You have an APLM of 2017 which hasn't been implemented. Every time there is a bumper crop, you bring in imports. Every time global prices rise, you prohibit exports. The crop insurance scheme is a massive failure. The claims to ratio is 55%. The amount of premium you pay is as high as 30% of the values insured. This is institutionalized loot. These things need to be amended. It's not enough to have popular slogans. You need to actually implement what you want so that business people and farmers can get on with their business.
Every time I listen to you, I wonder why the Aam Aadmi Party didn't send you to the Rajya Sabha. And that's another question which we will leave for another day. Rashesh Shah, President FICCI and Chairman and CEO Edelweiss Group is joining me. There is Meera Sanyal talking about the ease of doing business. The Prime Minister keeps talking about it, but on the ground anecdotal evidence doesn't seem to match any belief that actually it's become easier to do business. Do you believe that's what you want to see today from the Finance Minister? Clear signal as to how is that actually, how is the rhetoric going to translate into reality? Forget the headlines for once. Focus, as we've been saying, on micro detailing. Is that what you'd like to see today?
Absolutely. I think it goes without saying that we all in business want ease of doing business. We want cost of doing business to come down. But I would say a lot of this, the bureaucracy, the red tape, the habits that have been inculcated have happened over a long period of time. I would for one say in the last 3 years things have definitely improved. The kind of upsurge in FDI we have seen, because also remember global investors can go anywhere. So why are they coming to India? Why is there such a large increase in FDI? Even on the Indian front, like if you look at the NCLT cases, the way a lot of the large corporate acquirers are actually bidding for that is a very positive sign, because people are seeing the growth in India, the opportunity in India as a positive, as a strong positive.
Cycle,
obviously,
sorry, Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah, for all the fine words, for all the fine words of FICCI and CI, at the end of the day, private investment cycles are not showing any major signs of pickup. Investment projects have halved, as was just said, and there's a sense that there are the major corporates who'd rather invest today in the Philippines or even in Africa or Latin America to in India. So that, who's going to walk the talk? Is business going to walk the talk, or are politicians going to have to create an environment where business starts walking the talk?
I wouldn't agree with you. I think if you look at Indian companies going abroad, there have been more failures than actual successes on that. So I think Indian companies have created a lot of wealth for shareholders by being in India. The overseas foreigners have not actually turned out very well for most of them. Along with that, I must say that if you, when you talk about investments, we have to look at capacity utilization. What happened in India is between 2008-9 to 2012-13, there was a lot of over-investment that happened. Part of the NPA crisis we are seeing is also a result of that. Until that over-investment is absorbed and there is a global overcapacity, Indian capacity utilizations have also not been have been that great. But the positive sign is last 3-4 months there is a clear uptick on capacity utilization. Steel, cement, housing, commercial vehicles, all of them have shown a strong uptick. So I think economy is on the rebound. We have absorbed the disruption of GST demonetization, and I think at this time the finance minister through the budget can give a strong positive boost and improve sentiment. And I do believe that the animal spirits and the risk-taking activities from corporate is not more than a couple of quarters away.
Okay. You believe that we are just a couple of quarters away from a rebound. You agree with that?
I think in terms of private investment, we are at least a year away. Private sector investment in large numbers, we are a year away. Maybe exports, we are a couple of quarters away, maybe about 2 quarters away from.
Yes, Mr. Your mic was not working earlier. What do you expect to do to incentivize this, the animal spirits, as the FICCI president
basically put more money into people's hand, and for that purpose raise the income tax threshold exemption limit to 5 lakhs and shift all that resources that you are using to handle these low value returns to target the big fish through the Benami Act. Let's not forget that the Income Tax Department today is tasked with not only the Income Tax Act but also the Benami Act. And in Benami Act, it's not a matter of paying tax and the interest and penalty and getting away with it. The entire Benami property comes into the fisc as a penal measure. So even the Parliamentary Standing Committee in 2012 in its report said 90% of the returns filed are between the 0 and 5 lakh income bucket, and they contribute very little by way of commensurate by way of revenue. And all this talk of widening the tax base by adding more at the bottom of the pyramid, it makes a little sense. So better thing is free up the resources from here and use it to Benami Act, target the big fish, put money into people's hand by this raising the threshold limit. They will spend, and the animals.
That's the toughest job to do, because you know that even government, whatever it tried to do with the big data and in policy making, as they've been saying, they've not been able to decipher those 2.89 lakh crore that they have sort of identified and said that this is suspicious money. Now, how much of that is suspicious money and black money? But it's the most difficult thing to do. So far the only the amount that has been collected as black money is less than $1 billion.
Many of the Benami case adjudications in this black money cases have been walkovers basically, because the fellow does not want to be identified and further action taken against him. Recently there was a case reported of 16 crore rupees of suspicious deposits which they came across by way of survey, They caught them red-handed in the process of issuing the demand drafts and taking it out. Immediately the income tax department provisionally attached, took that into custody and sent a notice. The fellow didn't turn up, and the entire 16 crores stand
But look at what is happening in Shah Rukh Khan's case. It's going to be going into litigation for years and years. So there is, there are some examples like that.
Exactly. That is why they need to bring clarificatory amendment. I agree with you. They need to bring a clarificatory amendment to the Benami Act, which combines the adjudication proceeding and the confiscation proceeding. Right now it is a two-tier proceeding. First there is an adjudication by the adjudicating authority that this is Benami property or this is not a Benami property. If it is not a Benami property, he lifts the provisional attachment by income tax department and lets you go.
And you'd like to see the finance minister do that today itself?
Yes. Let this two-tier adjudication process be one tier. That the confiscation order will also be come with the adjudication order. Because if you are introducing an uncertainty here in this process.
Okay, I'm going to take a break because we've got just a few. And starting with you, Mr. Ahluwalia, after the break, I'm going to ask you the one thing that you're looking for across this table the most today, looking forward to the most from the finance minister. About 12 minutes from now, Arun Jaitley will be getting up to deliver his fifth budget speech. Back in a moment. For the finance minister to deliver his budget speech I have exactly 60 seconds to go through 9 voices. The one thing that you want to see, like Modi, if you want a sound bite. Mr. Modi likes sound bites. Your sound bite that you expect to see from the finance minister.
I'd like to see a significant increase in public investment, because that's what actually we need at this, and that's what we can get at this point in time.
Ajay.
A changing in the state's center funding ratio from 60-40 to 90-10 for all agriculture related schemes.
Come out of denial, public investment.
End the denial. End the denial of the state of the economy.
Make a lot of changes with respect to the IGST provisions, because this is the last time which it can happen now before.
Rajiv.
Choices are limited, so I think whatever resources he has, he should spend in infrastructure, rural, social and agri.
Investment, a boost for investment, both in the large sector as well as a small and medium enterprise.
I must tell you a secret. Dr. Desai has almost written his article on the budget for tomorrow's Business Standard. He's just going to fill in the blanks. Mr. Srinivasan.
Leave out small taxpayers from the tax net by raising the threshold to 5 lakhs and go after the big fish in the Benami Act.
You seem to be concentrating on the big fish. Yes, Professor Mehrotra.
For agriculture, incentivize diversification. That would create jobs. Secondly, for industry, ensure more money in the MSME ministry for cluster development.
Stick to your fiscal targets, stick to your fiscal roadmap, and for God's sake, promise no more dhamakas for the next year.
No more dhamakas for the next year. Of course, in a year from now, we'll be discussing elections, perhaps on this day in February 2019. Although there is a possibility that has been raised now of the budget cycle being changed and moved forward, and a November budget as well. But as we hit the clock at 11, Parliament about to reconvene. Remember, the finance minister is going to deliver his speech in Hindi. We are told a large parts of it. Now, that's an interesting shift. Arun Jaitley until now has delivered his speeches in English.
There's a little problem.
Yes.
Which is that we will not be able to handle the acronyms in Hindi. And I hope there are no new acronyms now.
That's why we hope that it's going to be English and not just Hindi. But to Mihir's point, my concern is that the fiscal deficit is going to be somewhere around 3.4% and not necessarily 3.2%.
Okay. All eyes therefore now on the finance minister as Parliament has convened. Remember, the budget making exercise, I think we're going to check that trivia. The first time it went on live on television was Manmohan Singh, 1991, the historic budget. Until then, we had to live without TV. But with TV, in the age of TV, the finance minister's budget speech becomes an event. Remember, the one thing the Modi government has been good at is managing events like this and sending out the right messages. What will the messaging be this time? Let's move live to the Lok Sabha now and listen to Sumitra Mahajan, the speaker first, and then the finance minister.